Hello and welcome to the A-Form Show, the premier podcast for all things architecture and design across the MENA region. Welcome to your tribe. Hello and welcome to the show, everyone. Today's guest is Rashiq Muhamad Ali, founder and principal of RqMA Architecture and Design. Known for his thoughtful and contemporary approach to architecture, Rashiq has built a practice that explores the intersection of design, culture, and the way people experience space. Through RqMA Architecture and Design, he has worked across a diverse range of projects, bringing together strong conceptual thinking, technical expertise, and a deep understanding of context, very important in today's world. His work reflects a commitment to creating architecture that is both meaningful and responsive to the needs of its users and its communities. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome to the show, Rashiq. It is awesome to have you on. For everyone who's listening, has probably heard of RqMA, probably heard of yourself as well. Fantastic work with what you guys are doing. We're recording today in your studio. I can kind of have a look around and see the kind of projects that you have going on, both diverse in range and typology and volume and complexity and all those good things. So I guess my first question is, a studio like yourself that is so diverse, finding a sort of uniform voice across your studio where everyone sort of speaks the same language or the design language, so to speak. How do you sort of control that? How do you sort of foster that? How do you allow for the external voices to, kind of come into the project? When I say external, I mean, with your team, because obviously you have a team of really talented people as well. How do you sort of get their input on projects? And how do you sort of define this cohesive language that is RqMA? I understand that you have quite a diverse background before you started RqMA, and we'll get to that. But tell us about why you started RqMA. What were you trying to achieve? Also from my history that you alluded to as well, the mindset that I get from there is to continuously keep inventing and exploring and discovering new ways of living. And aesthetics is one thing that we focus on as well, because I truly believe that aesthetics is also a core functionality of architecture. It has to be there. It's a process, right? I mean, even 20 years from now, it would still be the same process. It wouldn't be putting a full stop into research.
Right. But how do you sort of, I suppose, as you elevate as a studio, you get other voices that come in to influence what that language is. How do you sort of keep control of where that's going?
What kind of voices are you talking about? From external or within?
Within. I mean, you obviously have a team around you and you have, pretty capable designers who probably question, challenge, or maybe add on even.
I welcome that.
Okay.
I like the questioning because then it strengthens your answer even more. See, at the end of the day, the project is a hero, right? And we need to make sure that the project works. If someone questions it, we need to welcome that, because that could be a hole that you could fix,
right?
And therefore making you a better architect as well. We work in a very collaborative way, right from the intern to the principal to senior architect. Everyone is in tune with what we're trying to achieve. And as I explained to you before, that we have a manifesto in the office as well, the details of which I'm not get into, but that kind of drives you to become better, understand your responsibilities as an architect, what we're trying to do. Because I feel like in today's world of architecture, that's kind of getting lost. You don't have the great philosophers like Gropius or Corbusier, any of that emerging in today's commercial world. And I think it weakens the profession as well. So we try to, strive to make things better. So questioning is more than welcome. Collaboration is key for us. And like every project that's going on in the studio, everyone in the studio knows everything about it. So everyone is involved in all projects right now.
Okay. If you could sort of give our listeners a brief snapshot of what's going on in the studio now.
We have a data center project going on right now, 2 actually. We have an IT infrastructure park. We are doing a master plan for World City. What else do we have? I mean, we have a couple of NDA-bound cool projects that's going on as well.
I would imagine if you are kind of looking at data centers, that's going to be my next question.
Some of them are like that. We are in talks to finalizing a luxury resort in India, and we have some things happening in Africa as well. So a couple of things. We have few interior projects as well, but we tend to focus more on the architecture.
Out of just professional curiosity, creatively speaking, where do data centers fall? Because in my mind, I'm thinking racking and and a roof?
I think this is a great subject, right? Because we are doing an entire thesis on this particular aspect. Creatively speaking, I think it's also about the space plan, right? Because data centers are these machines that has to be, has to work well.
Ventilated, cooled, all
everything,
that stuff,
right?
Yeah.
And as you may be hearing the news right now, there are some sustainability issues that's going on. And I was just having a discussion with somebody just before what the role of architecture is, because data centers cannot be isolated as singular infrastructure boxes anymore. It has to coexist within urbanism because data centers are not going anywhere.
Right. If anything, they're just going to increase.
Yeah. If you want to lead the lifestyle that you're leading right now with tech continuously evolving, data centers are here to stay. So they're here to stay. Now we need to make it work, and making it work is where not just architects, environmentalists, operators, engineers, all of these characters have to come forth to be able to create a world that you can sustainably have a data center and still not crash the environment.
Right.
So, data centers are now coming within huge IT urban parks. So that's kind of offloading the carbon footprint as well. There will always be energy going on, and that's why we need to evolve the technology as well. Unfortunately, the requirement for the data centers processing speed is much faster than the other industries are evolving. So we need to catch up with it. I think more than anything, architecture has to be involved with the production of data centers. It's only then that we actually think about these aspects.
Right. And I think sort of the unique thing about data centers, I mean, if I'm just thinking from what comes naturally to me, which is residential design, for example, I don't see the general format of resi work changing dramatically, in the sense that you still will have some kind of a sleeping space / bedroom, some kind of a living space / hall, lounge, whatever.
Which is a shame that it hasn't evolved, but yeah.
But I feel like with data centers, 5 years later, you could have a completely different sort of assembly or requirement, which may not even work then in the architecture that you're proposing.
So data centers have existed for a long time, but it is only now that people are noticing data centers as an environmental factor. And it also has to do with the evolution of AI. So the space in which you could have a certain amount of racks, say even 5 years back, is much less than what would be required right now. Right. So it's multiplying quite a bit, which is why data centers have suddenly come into prominence now, because you need that for helping that evolve as well.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
You did. I'm kind of now hung up on resi work now because I think we share a similar sentiment.
Okay.
So, well, to pose the question quite bluntly, why do you think the residential space in 2026 has not really changed from 1806?
So, I mean, you grew up in Dubai, didn't you?
Yeah.
I grew up partly in Dubai, Abu Dhabi.
Shout out Dubai kids.
Yes.
We hear you.
Yeah. If you remember the apartments that we grew up in, massive. And vastly different.
Yeah.
The layouts were all different. Every place you went to, it was, you would get excited going to someone's house because you discover a new layout.
Yeah, it's a whole new thing.
Yeah. And I assume, like me, if you were an architecture geek even back then, you like exploring all these things, right?
I used to be like, oops, should not have opened that door.
Yeah. But right now,
you can almost predict what you're going to walk into.
What the layout's going to be. You walk in, there's going to be a kitchen on the side, there's going to be a living, dining.
Yeah.
If it's a smaller apartment, you could either have a living or a dining.
Right.
You can't have both. And then you turn to the left, you have one bedroom.
Right.
And the master bedroom on the left. If it's 3 bedroom, one more bedroom in the master bedroom there.
And dare I say, for the sake of creativity, a maid's room or a study.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a little store where you can put your laundry.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel it's basically the commercial factor of it, right?
Right.
Because I do believe that developers are, creating these buildings within that sweet price range where most amount of people can afford to buy a property.
Right.
And most people don't buy property with the mindset of wanting to live there, but it's rather to wait for a couple of years, see how it does in the property market, and then be able to sell it, right? So they've become more commodities than actually livable spaces.
I think it's, I have given this some thought, and I think it's, if you look at sort of the average buyer, I would say, I'm talking mass, obviously, not sort of upper end luxury or anything like that. It's typically a commitment of something between 1.5 to 3.5 million. That's kind of what you're getting average, into. And someone who probably wants to buy an asset in that range probably wants to live better. And therefore, this asset quite literally always will remain just an asset. And therefore, why challenge a norm if it's already working? So I do think, though, there is this resurgence of like a lot of these older units coming up for renovation and things like that. And I think people are seeing the value in these larger layouts, both as an asset and as something that you could see yourself living in as well. So I'm hoping that changes.
Look, I'm sure you remember, like after COVID, everyone wanted apartments with balconies.
Yeah.
Because suddenly they started valuing what it's like to step out, right? And then every building that would come after that would definitely have a balcony because 100%. They know that it sells as well. I just wish that because UAE had such a great start in terms of like really variable, like the architects of the past, right? Variable layouts going on. I wish that hadn't stopped. These days, a good design, primarily people talk about is what the facade of the building is.
Yeah.
And that's not it, right? Architecture is beyond that. So a lot of people think that architecture is the facade and it's not. It's completely different. There are definitely some developers that I see right now who are really breaking from that mold, trying to do something different. And I hope that continues on just because we need better places to live in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Not just look at.
100%.
That's the...
It's a conversation I was having with another developer recently wherein, and this is for no exaggeration, literally I was told the building doesn't look shiny enough. Right? And I'm sure you've heard this line before, right? And I think, I mean, of course, when we spoke about it, it came down to the fact that there wasn't enough glazing. That is kind of what they meant, because I had gone for something which was a much more sort of privacy-led, sort of framed visions from apartments and so on. So you can imagine what a facade like that looks. And here they're trying to pitch floor-to-ceiling windows and, you know, things like that.
They want to see that really thin slab outside and complete glass up.
Exactly. So I'm like, yeah, but if everyone's doing that, don't you kind of want to stand out by kind of cutting against the grain a bit? But yeah, it was quite doom and gloom, I feel, a couple of years back, but I feel like the market's shifting in a sense.
I mean, if I can talk about one of my first experiences of this, when I first moved to Dubai, a developer who shall remain unnamed.
We have many of those unnamed developers.
Yes, exactly. had asked me to do, a floor plan of like a 1-bedroom unit of, I think he wanted like around 60 square meters. So, right. Which I thought was quite tight, like from where I was coming from. That was very tight. But we managed to have a series of these 1-bedroom units and we had some extra space as well. So we could have a bit more than what they have as well.
Engineering services and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, when we do our concepts, we are putting in our shafts and everything on the first day itself.
100%.
We're not doing it later. So the developer was happy. And then he saw how spacious the apartment was. It's like, this is very spacious. Can you do the same thing in like 50 square meters kind of thing, right? And this went on to like 45 square meters. And then later I said like, look, I can't.
Yeah.
And I had to walk out from that project, having worked on it for like more than 3 weeks or something like that, because I just couldn't get myself to getting down there, right? It gets to a point where it's just enough discomfort that you can exist in.
Yeah.
And then,
it's like, as long as you don't put on any more weight.
Yeah, exactly.
and don't grow anymore and stay within that perfect radius, you'll be fine.
You'll be fine. Exactly. But yeah, it was a big eye-opener for me. Although, so I used to work in like other offices before. And one of the projects that we designed was Al-Barari, Seventh Heaven and all that, right?
Yeah, that's the other extreme.
So I assumed that every apartment in Dubai was going to be as spacious as that. Little did I know that's probably triple the size of an apartment over here.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different vision there, right? I mean, it's a different, completely different sort of expectation, vision, product, lifestyle. Yeah, it's a completely different brief even, I would think. But yeah, interesting. So I kind of want to ask you then a little bit more about what your thoughts are on the market in general in today's time, because obviously we've had a little discomfort recently, which I think we're, dare I say, out of the woods of almost. It has rattled obviously the supply chain and the world at large, but for us as a design community based in Dubai, larger UAE, I feel like there has been a lot of turmoil and many studios have sort of sailed through it even without much of turmoil. But now everyone's kind of just cautious.
Yeah.
So given the kind of clients you meet and the kind of feedback you're getting, what do you think we're heading towards? Do you think we're going towards times where clients are going to challenge more stuff, or are they going to be a bit more safer, a bit more reluctant to take risks?
See, one thing about Dubai is resilience, right? I mean, whenever something happens, be the financial crash of 2007-8, COVID, any other crash that we've had, Dubai's always bounced back and they bounce back harder. So there is a spirit of, getting things done and not letting things go down over here. So that's definitely there. We've been lucky because during these last few times, we have 2 projects on site right now and there was no stopping.
Right.
Like that was still going on and I had to double check with them, like, do we still have to go for inspections or anything like that? And they're like, yeah, I mean, what's changed kind of thing, right?
Fair enough.
So that's carried on. I do have to say that there has been a little bit of slowdown in the number of, RFQs coming through, but it hasn't been too bad.
Okay.
Per se. I mean, luckily we have more projects internationally right now than locally, but we are still weighing out our options over here as well. Yeah. Have you faced any slowdown in your firm, or?
We're kind of in a sort of a very unique bubble, I would say, which is a good thing and a bad thing in the sense that we sort of specifically look at quite literally the upper end of resi, and typically for private clients, not even commercial clients. So these are people who, I was just talking about this the other day. These are people who probably have about 75 to 100 million that they're going to put towards a 40,000 square foot mansion. Not much affects them. If they want to do it, they're still going to do it. Very rarely are they truly affected by a financial crisis or any kind of calamity for that matter. They'll just pick up and move to another city or another country, move the leadership with them wherever they go, and then everything else kind of goes on as normal. So it's for that particular sector, it's not really an issue. So I suppose for us, we didn't really see much. We saw a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot more clients looking for opportunity to see if, given the situation that we were in, are there better deals in the supply chain?
I thought so, yeah. But there weren't.
Yeah, there weren't. That's the thing, that we very quickly realized that there weren't.
Yeah.
And we shared the same with them and they're like, oh, drats. But yeah, so fortunately for us, no, we were fairly okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I kind of, talking about sort of, picking up and going, whatever. I understand that as a studio, you have international projects, which is cool, but in places which people probably do not think you would venture in.
Yes.
So
should I let out the names now? Should I get rid of my business element secrets?
Part one would know, part one of my question would be, whereabouts are you guys doing work? And the second part would be for people listening in who maybe want to do work in those areas. How do they get in?
So primarily we're getting a lot of inquiries from India right now, which is why we've also set up a studio in India as of now. There is, at least for the next 10 years, an accelerated growth in construction in India. That is the projected growth. So a bulk of it is over there. And then I told you that we were doing master planning. That's for another Asian country as well. That's going on. And we're also targeting Africa quite a bit, but with selected clients in Africa. We work with the government quite a bit. We're doing the headquarters for some presidents of certain countries in Africa as well. So there are a few markets opening up over there. We've also just registered ourselves in UK as well to look into the European market. There are some things in the pipeline, which is why we had to open it up. We're not sure we're going to get it yet, but if the opportunity comes knocking, we have to be ready to take it up. And not necessarily to build in Europe itself, but through European entities to build in other places. So it's not the traditional form of the architectural business anymore. There are so many strings that are like tied together, and you need to figure out where you can fit in and find these spaces. And it's not easy to find these. It's a lot of networking and connecting and finding the right people, asking the right questions, that gets you over there.
Yeah. And I think in your case, I get the impression that you're quite selective about the kind of work you do, and more importantly, the kind of people that you work with. Is there, I believe there might be, but is there a ideal crafted client profile in your mind, saying that this is the person that I 100% want to work for? This would be like a no-brainer. What is that profile?
So the expected answer would be a rich client.
Well, that's a given.
Yeah. No, but what we do is, we like clients with a good vision, right? And we like fearless clients, because most of the designs that we do, it tends to
push the boundaries.
Yeah.
Live on the fringe.
Yeah. It scares people a little bit with the options that we give, right? So I like clients with vision, but we've had some clients who may not, under normal circumstances, be able to afford us. But because of his passion for wanting to get things done, we have done things at a lower rate, right? But client has to give us like a free rein with what we want to do. Yep. So we've actually done a few projects like that, even in Dubai, like that. At the end of the project, if your client is your friend, you've done a good job already.
Yeah.
But we like visionary clients. We like clients who know what they want. And more importantly, they know what they don't know in order to let us come in and be able to tell them that this is where we fill in the void there, right? And we like a little bit of creative license. We like to expand on the brief quite a bit. And if we see that the client likes to do a certain thing, we try to see how more can we supplement his, intentions, desire, or anything. And that goes from anything, right? From like the smallest interior design projects to the largest city master plan. I think one of the joys that we get as designers is being able to contribute more to the client's vision than what the client envisioned himself. And that really helps a lot.
So, yeah. I think there was this quote that I heard from one of her very early guests, who remains a good friend today as well, which was, or maybe he got got from someone else, but who knows?
Okay.
It's basically that when you see a good project, right? Everyone typically goes to the default, which is, oh, that's a good designer, good design team, good landscape team, interior team, architect. But what's also important is that was probably also a very good client.
Yeah.
Because there would have been a lot of times when it would have hurt for, do we really have to do that? Is it really going to cost that much more? Is it going to take that much more time? Do you really have to snag that for the 10th time? So it takes a good client to also contribute to a good project.
Absolutely. I agree. There's one thing that I always say is that I never criticize a bad design, because you never know what the architect or the designer had to go through with the client for it to look like that.
Right.
So I'm a little bit more forgiving to poor designs because you never know what the background is, right?
Yeah.
So that's just how I feel, because we've been through the same thing.
Yeah.
Like we want something in a certain way. I mean, there are projects where people go and they appreciate it, but in my mind, it's like, this is so bad because they didn't move that that column like that, where it should have been, reflecting the light from here. So that always happens.
Yeah. Talking about sort of our back-end situation here, when I've had to photograph and video a couple of our projects, I've had the exact same thing where I'm like, you set up the camera angle away from this side.
Yeah.
I know this side looks good, but we're looking at the other side now.
Do you also have, if you were not there on site when the photographer is there, you feel like he didn't take one key angle that should have been taken?
Yes. Didn't get the key shot.
Yeah.
Didn't get the right light.
Yeah.
Didn't FF&E set up correctly. All of that stuff. Yeah. Facade lighting, you forgot one strip light. How could you?
Especially resi projects, right?
Yeah.
Like you get that a lot.
Yeah, for us it's actually almost like a mission. Like when we photograph a lot of our resi stuff, typically it's like a day of just recce the day before, where it's like, this is the concept, this is what we did. These are the cool shots. This is good B-roll. This is what we want for awards, etc. So we kind of create these buckets of content that we want to achieve. And then, of course, dare I say, social media after that at the bottom.
Social media, indeed.
But we have these kind of categories. And then the next day when we come in, it's just set up. So it's internally, externally, in many cases, even 500 meters away, across a pond, across a lagoon, or across whatever, just to get the kind of far shot as well. And then it's all about the golden hour. Then everyone's kind of just waiting around at lunch, being like, all right, let's do a few test shots and kind of see it on the monitor, be like, all right, little change here, little change there. And the minute you kind of see that sort of goldness coming with like the blue and the glass and everything, everyone's like, it's go time.
Wait for the right time for the right shots, right?
Yeah. So very frustrating, I can imagine, for the team that's doing the work. But yeah, the end result is typically quite spectacular. Yeah,
it's good.
So I realize we've gone off on a big tangent. So let me bring us back to where we are, which is RqMA. I want to ask, as we sort of reach towards the end of the episode now, something which you mentioned off air and kind of briefly touched upon here as well, is that you want to be grooming leaders around you in this studio to then further take on the message of RqMA to other countries, studios, etc. How do you do that? How do you identify profiles or designers who I think that'd be a good fit? I think this will work. Is it quite literally just a gut call, or is there some other science to it?
I think it's mostly a gut call. I don't want to jinx anything, but I mean, it's a pretty public knowledge that my team's great. Like, I love my team.
Shout out to all you guys listening in.
Yeah, exactly.
And watching.
Yeah, but I feel like we have a different culture in the studio of like everyone is like in with each other. There's no indifference for anything. How do I pick them? I don't really know, but I feel like everyone that we have right now can be groomed into a good leadership position, because as the firm grows, you realize that as the principal, you can't really dip your toes into everything, but you need to have people who you can trust can run the show for you, even if you're not. I mean, I'm fairly confident right now that if I don't walk into the studio for 1 week, everything's going to be okay.
Right.
There's not going to be any big issues. So my role primarily becomes going out, meeting new clients, reconnecting with old clients, doing the initial design work, and problem solving only when it's actually crucial for me to be there to be able to solve problems. So I think it's also a sign of like a healthier studio culture as well, for you to have the trust and confidence that, your lieutenants can take over and deliver for you.
Right.
And a lot of it has to do with like empowering them with the responsibility and the confidence that that they can do it. I mean, we just hired somebody recently in India, and she wasn't very confident about whether she's the right person person for the role. But in my gut, she was like, she is the right person for the role and she can deliver. And that I can understand from, talking with them for some time. And look, I've worked in different countries. I work with like some of the best minds in architecture. And I think after a period of time, you tend to recognize talent, and you tend to recognize not just talent, but also commitment to deliver. And it's all of it going in together. I'm sure you've heard this line a lot that, talent means nothing if you don't have the attitude to come with it.
100%.
And that's a frame of mind. So there's no formula as such, but yeah, I would think I've been lucky so far.
Okay. I only asked the question because it seems to be something which I think this has come up in a couple of our previous episodes as well very recently, wherein it's one thing to hire for talent, which is fine. Let's say you need a front-end designer or even a back-end technical designer. You can look at a portfolio and you can kind of gauge very quickly, can that be done? And yes, no.
If it's not a doctored portfolio, yes. Yeah, yes.
We will come to that. But yes, okay. Completely. But for something like leadership and management, I mean, yes, you can have, a CV that says I established a studio and I grew it from 3 to 30 and all of that. But it's such a sensitive role considering it basically touches every part of your business, right? So my question was more sort of aligned to, how do you sort of make that call? Because a designer can be fairly isolated. When I say isolated, I mean, very rarely does a designer need to know, what's happening in your accounts list, for example. But someone which is leadership needs to know commercials, needs to know design, needs to know BD, needs to know HR, like all of it has to sort of be touched by this one person, therefore making it quite sensitive.
Well, we haven't reached that level yet. So right now, most of that is like taken care by me. We have key people who work on proposals, for instance, because you need to understand what you're, quoting for. Right. So there are only a few people who do that, and everyone's like at different levels. So we have like a gradient of generations as well.
Okay.
That's happening.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, there's no one size fits all kind of a situation, but everyone's being groomed in the right way.
Okay. I must ask then, just again out of curiosity, as an admirer of design business, you must have a lot of workflows, protocols, standards, manifesto, for example, in order to maintain that sort of quality, energy, passion across not just your studio, but across international studios and things like that. Anything that you can share with our audience, which was a game changer for you, something which you introduced as a checklist, for example, and suddenly you saw a big spike in efficiency, or some other sort of workflow that you tinkered with and it yielded a pretty substantial result?
I got to say, it's got to be delegation. It's got to be delegation for me. Look, when I started off, and even like my previous jobs that I had, etc., you had a certain responsibility and you had to do that, right? If I'm on a particular software, I think I'm the best in that software and I don't trust anybody else to do that. So to be able to trust and delegate to the right people and identifying the right people to do that, that's a huge game changer, right? Because that's off your shoulders. You do have to do those constant check-ins, but it frees you up to pursue what you should be doing, which is bringing in more projects and doing the key design work for it. If you can't trust people that you work with, then it's doomed.
Right.
And we should know that as well. Right. So
that is true. That is true. I think everyone listening in has had to work with someone that they don't fully trust.
Exactly.
And therefore know exactly what you're talking about.
And look, I've had that as well, right? I mean, I've had people that work with me that I couldn't completely trust. Like, I need to be able to know that when I leave the office and something has to be done, I know that it will be done.
Right.
Not having to constantly
check
up, and that distracts you from doing what you should be doing as well. So that's a constant thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Does it make sense?
It does. And it very nicely leads me to what I sort of want to talk about and touch upon as well, which is when we were talking off air, you mentioned that as a studio, no overtime, no weekends, no one's working late. And this is by design and very strictly adhered to.
We've had maybe a few over the last 5 years that I could count on one hand. But those were largely because of mistakes that we had done and we felt the responsibility to correct it. But no, we haven't had weekend work in a long, long time. And we rarely have any kind of overtime. And we haven't missed a single deadline.
Yeah, that's actually what is impressive, that you sort of have it dialed in now. I would assume that
we don't accept unreasonable timelines from clients because the expectation is that everybody else is doing, why don't you do it? And I feel as a community, we're failing our own community. We're cannibalizing our own community by falling into these kind of situations by saying that, oh, that architect won't do this for you. I'll do it for you. I'll deliver it in 5 days. And then we just do this to ourselves. And I just don't want to fall into that trap anymore. anymore because, we will kill the industry going like this.
Yeah. I mean, sooner or later, something's going to break, right?
Yeah.
Like the race to the bottom does have a finish line.
Yeah, exactly.
Sooner or later.
Yeah. So we just don't want to participate in it. And it's very easy to be sucked into it, especially when you're starting off a business. You think that you just have to spend all your time working and delivering, and someone's going to see my talent. They're going to see how hard I work. No, they're going to see how easily you can be manipulated to finishing off the work that they want. And as an industry, and this is a cause that I've been talking about for almost 5 years now, that we need to take care of ourselves and we need to stand our ground to say that this is how the design industry works. And we cannot allow external factors dictating how we should be working. And I think my passion is coming out right now a little bit.
100%, as it should. It should.
Yeah.
It's surprising how we got here, right? I feel like as an industry, we were very well intentioned.
Yeah.
And I feel like somewhere along the line, we got taken advantage of, or we sort of lost the sort of true north of why and how this was supposed to be done. But yeah, I hope we find it again with passionate people like yourself.
I'm hoping that people are standing their ground. I have friends in the industry who don't charge the right amount, and I get annoyed with them and I say, like, why are you doing this? Because that is soon going to be the industry standard. There was a time when the percentage was like 8% that you could charge for like pre-contract.
Right.
Now 4 is considered to be
pricey.
Pricey, right? There are people who are doing for like 2 or 1.8%. So this is not helping anyone.
Right.
So
it doesn't help the people who win the project either.
It doesn't help the clients also, because what they're getting is substandard work. Because people are trying to finish out the work as quickly as possible so that they can maintain the profit margin that they need to be maintaining.
100%. Because it's all, at the end of the day, even the 1.8% is for a certain number of hours. And if you exceed that, you're bust.
Yeah.
So
there was a time when people used to say that, we'll do 1 or 2 of these jobs that are low paying, but we'll balance it with like another big job that's going to be, that big job's not going to come, So
for those of you who are not viewing us, I would imagine I just shake my head like,
yes.
That never happens. That's a lie.
Yeah.
That's a dream.
And they just keep chasing that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm saying this even from, obviously when I first started the business, and I hope this serves as advice to people who are intending to start their business as well, is that there are going to be people who's going to come and say that, oh, you just do this free work for me and, I'll recommend you to my other friends.
It's exposure.
It's exposure, yes.
It's exposure. Come on. It's exposure.
So don't fall for that trap. And I still make mistakes, right? I know my team is standing there behind saying that you're still making mistakes, Rashiq. But I still make mistakes, but you're just learning from everything that you're doing. And the one thing that I can say is that don't be shy to charge what you should be charging. We had a client from Saudi who had approached us for a villa design just before the Eid breaks kind of thing. He said, I'm going to come down during the Eid break and I'm going to meet you. Be kind on us. Don't charge us too much. Everyone says don't charge us too much, right?
I won't. I'll just charge you my rate.
So I said, no, I'll charge you the standard industry rates for a villa design kind of thing. So I sent him the scope first to say, is this a scope that you want? Confirming that. He confirmed it. And then we sent the price. And in 2 hours, he messaged saying that, your price is far more than we expected. We can't even start negotiating. And I'm like, if it was 3 years back, I would be sad. But at this stage, I'm more relieved.
It's a very good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you want that out of your pipeline, out of your consciousness as quickly as possible, rather than having to fester and negotiate over it.
And people who do negotiate, as far as I've seen, do become difficult clients as well. If you take a job that is at a lower fee, those clients are going to be very difficult clients as well, because their mindset is going to be, how do I extract as much as I can for the fee that I'm getting? Yeah. It's not a partnership. You need clients who come off as partners.
Yeah. I mean, just to give some context, I actually am all for negotiating within good faith.
Yeah.
Right? If you want to talk about 5 to 10% off with knocking off maybe 1 or 2 items off your scope and things like that, sure, right? You want to go from 100% fee to a 20% fee?
No.
That's just wasting everyone's time. So I'm all for negotiating within reason.
Yeah. It's a tough industry. It's because there are so many variables going on. Someone recently asked me, why don't you just make a template for your proposals? I was like, there's no template,
Thank you so much for telling me that. We shall never speak again.
Yes. So I like how we've moved from design to the entire financial aspects of the challenge of the business kind of thing. Right?
100%. It is facts, right? It's one thing to be a designer and think this is all I do, and life is about design, and it's all about, at the end of the day, you have salaries to pay, you have yourself to pay, you have rent to pay, you do have bills just like any other business.
Yeah.
Which brings me to a very simple question. This is a very design specific problem where clients say you're too expensive, I don't see the value, I don't see this. Very rarely does it come up if you look at any other field. If you look at any other professional field, look at a doctor, look at a lawyer. I can't think of the last time someone questioned or negotiated, like a doctor's consultation fee. Yet for some reason, it's completely normal for us in our industry. So the simple question is, why do you think design is not undervalued, but why do you think people don't see the value in design? Why do you think that they're not willing to pay for the value that design brings?
So one is that for a doctor or for a lawyer, you never go to a doctor or a lawyer unless you're in like deep trouble.
Right.
Right?
I need help.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would flip that around and say that you would never go to a doctor and tell him that I'm not feeling well, give me some medicines. If I do recover, then I'll pay you.
Right.
That's not going to happen. Right. I think just going back to what we said a couple of sentences back, that it's our own industry that's done this to ourselves. We cannibalize ourselves by trying to win the project and doing that. It never used to be like that, by the way. I mean, I remember a long time ago, when an architect quotes his fees, that was the fees.
Yep.
There was no going around it. Other architects would quote kind of similar.
Yep.
But then one person would quote like 40% less than what the normalcy is. And in order to divert the market towards him, which in every business book you would read that this is how you
should do it.
Win business, right? Quote less than what they do, work hard, grind hard, and then get that thing. But then what that's doing is that another person's going to come back and is going to quote much less than he does. And then the entire thing just goes down. Yeah. So no matter what other people say, I stick to my guns. We have a certain fees that we charge, and we charge that. And some people come and say that it's too expensive. I don't think. I think we are kind of mid-range kind of thing. But even friends of yours and mine as well, I know who charges much less as well. And I keep telling them that it's not the right thing. You need to increase your fees.
And the funny thing is, right, I had a conversation with another sort of design and build contractor.
Interesting.
Right?
I'm doing an Alan now.
Where they kind of were, talking about a couple of projects that they'd put some bids in for, which in their mind they were very competitive for. Crickets. Didn't hear anything back. And this happened consistently for a couple of projects. So they kind of then dug into it, kind of to see what exactly was happening. And it turns out that, long story short, the stuff that they were bidding for was fit out for a large retailer who shall remain unnamed again. But their fee was so low that it made the client team nervous.
Yeah. Like, how are they going to achieve with that price?
How are they going to achieve it in that price? Will they be able to deliver the project in that price? Are they going to start now and then 3 months later go bust? Those were the kind of thoughts that came in with a fee that was considerably low. So what I try to tell people listening, and even in conversation, is that you may think you're doing yourself a good job and you're desperate to win the work, but that actually works against you in this kind of a way.
Correct.
Wherein you come off unreliable because of your low fee.
Yeah.
So you're
especially if you're a design and build.
Yes.
That's the difference, right?
Yeah.
But for architecture, it's your creative powers, right? That's what you're selling for. For design and build, the worry is because the cost of materials is this much, the cost of labor is this much.
Correct.
What kind of labor are you going to get to achieve this kind of a price?
Correct.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But in our case, it's going to be different. And also, no, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. Start talking about the design and build industry, but you know where my question is going anyway. Yeah. But I mean, it seems like advice is expendable because you don't actually have a tangible product in front of you. So it's easier for them to devalue the service that you bring, not knowing that what you bring out as a product is after years of studying and experience, just grinding through the toughest industry problems, which makes it easy to resolve certain problems because you know how to deal with it. Not panicking when a design problem presents itself, and to think with a clear mind, that is talent enough to be able to be part of this profession. But that's not valued. Yeah. It's expected, but it's not valued.
Right. Well, hopefully conversations like this change that.
Hopefully.
And hopefully people listening in are like, you know what? I heard Rashiq's episode. I'm going to stick to my feet too.
Should.
Sort of as we wind down this episode, I have to ask, because it's a very exciting studio, obviously, the work that you're doing, the team that you have, I can see nothing but upward trajectory. But I must ask, specifically as a designer, business owner, what's next for Rashiq? What's next for the studio? What are you working towards ideally? What are you looking to achieve? 1 year, 5 year, whatever timeline?
So, you know my background, obviously, where I come from, etc. So when I started the studio, it was never in my mind that we were going to be a local studio. Our perspective was always international because or at least I have always worked international. So we want to start opening up offices in different countries. And personally, I want to start opening offices in places that I'd like to wake up at.
Interesting.
So maybe a Bali or Hawaii or something like that. That would be great to do. But no, we would like to do more interesting work. We would like to be able to pick the projects that we want to work on. I'd like a couple of museums or a few more city master plans. That'd be great. But a slow evolution of like leaders that I can distribute around the world as well. Just doing good, interesting, groundbreaking work without being dictated by extreme commercial constraints in terms of that specifically with like these small shoebox apartment buildings or anything like that, right? So every work that we do, we'd like to make an impact into that particular field as well. And that could be anything, right? So we are very agnostic about the typology of work that we do because we like to work on all typologies. That's the other question that I got when I got to Dubai was that when people ask me like, oh, you're an architect. What kind of architect are you?
Yeah.
Are you a residential or commercial?
Just the architect.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I don't know how to answer that question because again, my background, we've been doing everything, right? So we like to do, I didn't think that 5 years back that I'd be doing data centers right now, but that's the need of the hour. And then we come up and we try to make a difference in the data centers that we are designing, right? Which I think is very much a requirement for architects to be part of.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, we are at our core problem solvers, right? So technically should be able to solve any problem.
Exactly. And get paid for it.
From designing a chair to a city to running a studio to chasing debt, I suppose.
Yes.
We problem solve everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, as you probably know, on the show, we have a closing tradition called the A-Form tradition.
I'm excited.
It's a question that's been asked by one of our previous guests to the next guest, not knowing who they are. It's completely blind. So I believe we have a question for you today. I'll pull it up.
I hope she's been kind.
Yeah, hopefully Trusty Joel has done us a good job. Let me pull it up here. Okay. All right. It's more of a master planning question. But okay. So the question is, would you prefer a future where cities are fully automated and efficient, but less spontaneous? Or would you prefer cities that remain, quote unquote, messy and creative at the cost of some inefficiencies like traffic, a lot of people collected in one spot, etc., etc. So I think the question is, would you prefer cities which are fully automated and highly efficient but less spontaneous, or prefer cities that remain quote unquote messy and creative at the cost of some inefficiencies?
That's a tough question, man. I mean, ideally you want both, right? But I'll answer it like this, right? Some of the favorite cities that I have lived in, I would say place like Hong Kong is one of my favorite cities. It's chaotic, but I like it because it's not pure black and white. There are a lot of grays in between that makes the city interesting.
Yeah.
So I'd like to live in an interesting city rather than a sterile city.
Right.
Therefore, option B.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I think option one comes off as very...
this utopian idea of what a city should be.
Yeah.
But then you end up living like robots.
Yeah.
I would rather live as a human in a messy city than as a robot in a utopian perfect city.
It almost seems very dystopian, actually, being so efficient.
Yeah, exactly. Look, cities are about stories, right?
Yeah.
Every time someone says that, oh, I used to live in New York, they have like 100 stories of different things, right? So if your city can't create a story for you, then it's not worth living in.
That is a very good answer. I may or may not use it for myself. Well, I mean, this has been an awesome episode. Like I said, when we started, we've been trying to make this happen for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm happy that it finally did.
I think we were at that sustainability talk in Canadian University.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yes.
Or more.
Yes.
Since we've tried to make this happen.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that we finally did. This has been awesome. We will definitely have you on again in the future.
Good. Thank you.
Hopefully from another office that you like waking up from.
Yeah. See you in Bali. Awesome. For anyone who wants to get in touch with Rashiq, we'll have his contact information down in the show notes. Link to RqMA Studio, of course. And if any of you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And for the rest of you guys, we will catch you guys next week. Fellow A-Former, thank you so much for your time. If this episode added any value to you, please share it with anyone who may benefit. If you want to carry on the discussion, please get in touch with us over socials. We are at A-Form Show on the gram and hello@aform.studio on email. That is at A-Form Show on the gram and hello@aform.studio on email. Until next time, stay inspired.